Studio. Good morning, Dr. Davenport.
Good morning, Karen. How are you today?
I understand you're busy and on the run as usual, doing all kinds of things.
It always seems to be the case.
Well, we're glad to have you here in the studio this morning, and it's 23 after 10 o'clock. This is the Minnesota Morning, and this is our live question and answer session with Dr. Richard Davenport. I've got a number of questions that have been emailed to me, Dr. Davenport, so we'll talk about those. But I want to just chat a little bit about what's going on this weekend. It's a big weekend here on campus.
Well, it really is. And, first of all, with commencement coming up, I understand that our spring totals for commencement are up about 9%.
Yeah, it seemed like a lot more.
Yeah, I'm not sure how we're going to be able to accommodate all of them, but we will. And I understand we'll have 3 commencements on Saturday, one starting at 9, the other one at noon, and then at 3 p.m. And the reason we spread them out that way is so that we give people coming to the commencement, the families and friends and everyone, a chance to come and be involved and also move out of the parking lot so the next group can come in. Because
I remember in the past when it lasted like 4 hours. It was just all of them were together, and it was you could only bring just a few guests versus this way you can bring your whole family.
Yes.
And so that's a nice thing. And I have the fortune of being able to announce the graduates at the 9 a.m. ceremony, and of course Golly from here gets to.
You two are good now. Do you have a little contest going between you on the naming? Do you think?
Well, I don't know if Golly does this, but I have them whisper into my ear before I say their names, especially the international names, because they are pretty tricky, some of them.
You both are good at that. I don't think I've ever caught a mistake on your part.
Well, at least that the families may be like, what?
Right. but I think we might anticipate as many as 20,000 people over those 3 commencements, counting the students that are participating. It's going to be a wonderful opportunity.
Yeah, some 1,800 are expected to graduate this weekend, and including 4 of our KMSU students, so of course we're going to miss them, but good luck to them and all the other graduates. And I think, isn't it one of the first doctoral programs going through? It's graduates including the first Becky Taylor Fellows who are receiving their Doctor of Nursing Practices degrees. Right. And that's the first doctoral class that is it? Or no, there was counseling personnel, wasn't there?
I think a year ago we had doctoral students coming through, but yes, this will be the first Becky Taylor Fellows.
That's wonderful.
Graduates.
So it would be neat to see those folks going through. Another topic that's of interest, has been in the paper a lot lately, is the aviation program, because, we've been talking a lot about budgets and cuts, Dr. Davenport, and aviation was one of those that was a high expense, relatively low enrollment program that was slated to be one of those cut. But now that is going to be sticking around, and I know there's been, like I said, a lot of talk in the paper and that sort of thing, but maybe just tell a little bit about the update on the aviation program for those who maybe aren't familiar.
The aviation program was one of 21 programs that were slated to be cut. And we got tremendous outpouring of support from the community and from the graduates and alums from the program all over the country, as a matter of fact. And so when I met with a number of the supporters of the aviation program within the community, they made a very, very strong case for keeping the aviation program because of the impact it has on our city as an MSA designated community now, but also to keep that airport that we have here vibrant. And so what I said, and Provost Olson and I together working with them, said, look, you're going to need to raise money to keep the program going.
Because it is expensive.
It is expensive, and we really can't cut other programs in order to keep the aviation program. So if you raised enough money that would offset whatever that loss would be, we would consider it. So we did, and put it on a probationary kind of status, which means that we'll give it 3 years to really prove that it can be successful in terms of financially successful. And if it is, then we'll continue the program. If not, then we'll consider
having to cut again.
Having to cut it again, right. But we're very, very hopeful and have a lot of good reasons to believe that it will be successful.
So essentially it needs to be self-sustaining in terms of being able to not have a deficit.
Absolutely.
And we're also looking at additional cuts now. I know, of course, we did the IFO cuts, 80 faculty were cut in terms of positions because of the big budget deficit we're facing, and that's coming up. 2012 is the I guess, the big fallout year, correct?
That's right. Everything's been targeted at 2012, 2013 with the predicted general fund state revenue reaching a shortfall of about $5.7 billion. And I guess what everyone's wondering is how reliable is that prediction? Will it change? There's not a lot of good indicators out there that would suggest that it's going to change that much. If it does,
that's good.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if it doesn't, well, we've prepared for that, and we've taken all the precautionary steps that we need to keep our university really strong and vibrant, and where we can continue to offer programs of high quality and excellence.
And so, of course, you've cut some administration positions, you've cut some faculty positions, you've cut some programs. You mentioned 21 programs, or I don't know how many actually did get cut.
21 programs. There were a number of programs that were sized down, I might mention. And I think we probably looked at over 170 programs that probably lost some revenue and some support along the way. But I think the process was very open and transparent. We had lots and lots of discussion about how to move forward. We feel bad for any of our community members here at the university that will be laid off. We're taking every step that we can to minimize that. We did offer an early retirement incentive that the Board of Trustees put out.
How many people did end up taking that? I know that early on there wasn't as many as you'd anticipated, and then they offered that again in terms of early retirement. Do you know what the total is?
Well, I think we had about 20 the first round of the early incentive retirement proposal, and that netted is about $1.9 million in base savings. And now we have a second round, and we think that if all goes well, we might have an additional 10 or slightly more. But if that happened, that would help us tremendously. And the other thing it does is it helps us in regards to not laying off as many faculty, because if the faculty qualify for a BESI, that minimizes the number of layoffs that would occur anyway.
We're talking with Dr. Richard Davenport, president here at Minnesota State University Mankato. He is here live in studio and available to answer questions. I have a number of them that have been emailed to me. If you'd like to call in, you can certainly do that. Gully's ready to take your call at 389-5678. That's 389-KMSU or 1-800-456-7810. Now, as long as we're on the subject of cuts, what is the next steps? I mean, because we were always asking that next steps, because we know that things are continuing, as always.
Well, I think...
are you looking at the other areas now?
Yes.
Because it seems to me like even like in my division, they were talking, okay, folks, look at what can be cut.
I wanted to back up just a little bit.
Sure.
When we started out with the budget cuts, we made a number of administrative mergers. And the outcome of, for example... moving from a division of student affairs to a dean of student affairs who reports to the provost. But the dean of student affairs also sits on the president's cabinet. That saved us a lot of money. There were some other positions that were lost at that time. Also, we had a unit called extended learning. And we merged and combined that with our vice president for strategic business partnerships in his division. So that ended up resulting in some cost savings. And then, of course, recently we did the same thing with the division of diversity, institutional diversity, and we merged that just like we did student affairs. And I'm not sure that saved as much money, but it was a very good decision to integrate it within the university.
I know one of the things you're looking at is sort of decentralizing things and creating more direct impact with students directly. I know that was part of the initial talk about that. And so now in terms of the diversity area, you've got a new dean, Henry Morris, and how has that whole process been going?
Well, thank you for asking. I just couldn't give enough praise to Henry Morris and his leadership. He has really stepped in and provided institutional diversity leadership across the university and within the Mankato community and elsewhere. He's doing a fabulous job getting everybody on board and helping us all to move forward with our diversity agenda. And of course, a lot of people know that he's really managed the college access program tremendously. He's bringing advisors and students together to work through the issues and problems in financial aid and a whole variety, a host of issues that has been talked about publicly here in
Right,
Mankato.
and for those who may be tuning in, the college access program is also known as CAP, which is for high school students who are otherwise have have difficulties or first.
Well, these are highly at-risk students,
Okay,
and we begin identifying them in their junior, senior year, for the most part, of high school. And we bring them on campus for summer camps and then determine which one should be enrolled at the institution based on their success in the summer. And I just want to say that we'll have another summer camp under Henry Morris's leadership. It promises to be very, very successful. But I want to just let people know that this is a highly at-risk population of students that probably wouldn't normally be accepted into any college or university. And through this program, we're able to give them an opportunity and a chance to succeed. The big difference now in the new CAP program, it's really truly a 4-year program where they get as maximum exposure to faculty and staff and advisors and others that will help them to succeed. So my goal is not to get them through the first 2 years, but to get them through the 4 years and graduate and get out there and to be successful like any student would. I might mention that a lot of people confuse this population of students, the high at risk, with students that come in, and we call them contracted students. And these are...
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, see, I didn't think you did, but a lot of people do know that a student maybe doesn't quite meet 100% of the guidelines for getting in. They might just be below be
like ACT point or
maybe
GPA or something.
Yeah, slightly below what they need to be. They're not considered at risk, but they don't meet our admissions requirements. We do admit 200 of those students every year.
Based on
well.
They have to meet certain requirements in order to stay in college, so it's a contract.
Yes.
You have to meet these points or whatever it may be that we designate, and then you can continue or not.
Well, they have to get special advising and
Okay.
tutoring. That's one of the contracts. So we found that to be extremely successful program, and we're trying to integrate that to some degree with the college access program. But back to Henry Morris, you're going to hear a lot more about him. He's doing a just outstanding job, and his leadership is just tremendous.
Okay, so some savings in that area. Any other plans in the future?
Let's finish that thought. We spent the last year looking at the instructional side, and that's where you were talking a minute ago about reducing the number of faculty positions and programs. And so now we're ready to move into the third phase where we're looking at the non-instructional side for budget reduction. And then on the non-instructional side, we'll be looking at literally everything else to make the final cuts. And we'll be spending a lot of time this summer and early fall making that determination. Again, a very transparent process. Everybody at the university will be aware of it and have an opportunity for input, and we'll be very open with the areas that we're looking at.
And those are support areas or any areas not directly related to instruction?
Anywhere from administration to support services for students. We've got to be extremely careful on the support services that we don't in some way hamper retention opportunities because of the kind of support we provide students. For example, while I'm not definite about this, but I think it'd be kind of hard-pressed to cut the financial aid office, which is a lifeline for our students. They need that financial aid, and we're already a little short-handed there. I mean, of course, you could say that about any office probably, but in financial aid, students rely on that. Over 70-75% of our students have financial aid, so they've got to be able to have people there to help them get the funding they need to continue the education. So that's very, very critical.
And that truly is a maze for so many students, the financial aid piece. I mean, that's just confusing for anybody.
It is. So that's given as an example of a support service, and I think it's unlikely that we'd cut that. That's so essential to the students.
Is summer a tough time to do it because a lot of folks aren't on campus or not as many? And I mean, you talk about being transparent. Do you fear having some of these discussions over the summer that some people might miss out on the discussions? Or
those discussions will carry through.
Okay.
We'll have a lot of open discussion. Anything controversial, we'll put it out there for weighing both the pros and cons of those cuts.